Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Smoke and Mirrors presented by the Sports Hit List. I'm your host, Stephen Polius, alongside Declan Krogman and Greg Polius. I guess I'm the only person that didn't put my hood up. It's all good, though. I'm going to just rock out like this.
Hoodie season, bro.
I got my hair braided. So I'm looking cute. Got some of my hair. But yes, it is Friday, a brisk Friday at that, in a very busy sports week. But before we get into the sports, as always, I want to know how you guys are doing. Deck, are you wearing a Bass Sports hat? Is it because you're upstate?
I'm wearing a Bass Pro Shops hat. It's freezing today, first of all. It's like 30
That
degrees.
couldn't be more apt for the region.
Yeah. They give them out there for free.
That was funny. I got a free t-shirt with it. I see the redneck comments are coming in. So,
indirectly.
Yeah, I had a very redneck week, I would say. Nah, I didn't. It was really it was kind of boring. It was a fun week. I mean, I guess I can't complain. But
yeah.
Brett, Steph, I want to know how you guys are doing. I'm sure it was more eventful than mine, so let's hear it.
Don't assume. I mean, we're down here back in the city, so anything can go down at any moment. But it's been a chill week. I helped out a friend moving on Monday, which was happened Monday before the show, and I didn't mention it, but it was a more difficult move than I expected. Haven't done that in a while, but
I was also asked to help move someone in this week.
Yeah,
I didn't do it though. You're a better man than I
am. But no, it wasn't bad, not at all. My fantasy teams are still doing just all right. Obviously, last night was great for some people, and just
if you had Jonathan Taylor, yes.
Well, Jonathan Taylor, even if you decided to play Hines or Elijah Moore. So those are some huge game from JT, good games from the other guys. I did want to mention something else, and it escaped me. Oh, I hate that. Greg, you should go, though.
It was an eventful week. I mean, there's always something new with teaching, so I always welcome the weekend. Eventful in terms of classroom stuff. Yeah. Parent-teachers conference was last night via Zoom, so that was interesting. I had Zoom issues for whatever reason. DOE Zoom logged my parents out.
They couldn't get surprising.
Couldn't get in for the first parent-teacher, so I had to email all my students individually. So that was fun times. But let's get into it. I want to talk some sports. Forget work.
Yeah. No, we can't talk sports. I was really hoping you went a little bit longer because I really wanted to find my point. I felt like it was good, and I remember now. I do.
You're welcome.
Oh, well, I thank you. The timing could have been better, though. I wanted to bring up the Sports Hit List VIP Basketball Fantasy League. And I just wanted to mention that your boy, I told you, Basketball Jones, a lot better year 2 than year 1. That was the beta test. Y'all didn't realize, but it was a beta test. Still have managed to get to the championship. Ant Mullen, if you're listening. If you're not listening, you should tune in right now. Someone add him in the chat, please. Ant Mullen, as usual, is talking smack, saying that my team is sus and that Greg is it's Greg's burner account. Ridiculous. I'm currently in second place in the league, or third, something like that. My team is looking good.
It's early.
Really good. Hey, it is early. It is early. But early on, I'm looking much better than I did last year. And I just want people to know out there that Basketball Jones is going to be giving updates every week so that you're going to know what's going on. I'm winning right now, 7-zip. So, and it's handily. So y'all tune in for this season. It's going to be crazy.
The weekly updates. We're going to get weekly updates until June. I've never actually done fantasy basketball like year round. I did it during the shortened season last year for the league, the Thunder League we did with Lance. And I picked the big three, which the big three, of course, is Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin. So I picked Lob City, hence why I probably finished in 10th place. I mean, listen, I might as well have drafted Hassan Whiteside in the 5th round or something.
Like somebody
this guy
we know.
taking shots. I hear you.
But you know what? I would have went to the championship if I did it. So no shots necessary to be taken. But in other news, I traded for Daniel Jones this week, and I gave up.
Not a shock.
I know. What a shock, right? I mean, really. I gave up Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley. That was good. Shout out to Rick for that nickname. I mean, just found it.
It is.
Easily. I mean, it's a great nickname. But Greg wanted to veto that trade. I never thought Greg would want to veto a trade.
That's not true at all.
Jones was the strong. Oh no. I know he wants to veto everything. He's like David Stern on acid. But really, I mean, I've never thought I would expect a veto from him on a trade where Daniel Jones was on the lopsided.
It's a little different when it's a 2-quarterback league. So the quarterbacks are worth a little more.
You're telling me. I had Aaron Rodgers. I picked up Jordan Love. Like and I'm playing my dad who's 8-0, so I might as well be finished before the week even starts. So hopefully DJ can get me some points.
Good luck to your fantasy team. And that is going to be the small portion of our fantasy segment for now. But let's get into it, right? I want to start with the Suns controversy. All right. An ESPN investigation was conducted revealing allegations from former employees and current ones about majority owner Robert Sarver and his inappropriate and misogynistic behavior that included using the N-word and lewd comments during staff meetings. Now, former Suns coach Earl Watson was recalled a time after a game that Sarver used the N-word. And the quote is,
in the locker room, right?
Yes, it was a locker room after the game, post-game. It says, why does Draymond get to run up the court and say N-word? Then he repeated the N-word several times. Watson told him he couldn't say that word, which he countered with, why? Shocker. So Sarver denied saying the N-word. He said that he spoke to a player that received a tech for saying the N-word. And when that player was reached out to, he said that through his lawyer that he doesn't recall that conversation ever happening. So you have that. And then there's also allegations of Sarver passing around a photo of his wife in a bikini, talking about times that she performed oral sex on him. He denied that allegation as well, claiming that the story was misconstrued. This apparently is just a glimpse into what the conduct of Robert Sarver's time during his tenure with the Suns since 2004. So it's been 17 years. The information was gathered from over 70 former and current employees, as I was mentioning earlier. And this is still something that's ongoing. Now, I want to ask you first, Greg, what do you think of these allegations? And do you think it's enough to remove Sarver from his ownership of the Suns?
Is it a day that ends in Y?
Is today a day that ends in Y? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think of the allegations. This is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is what comes from the good old boys club. They grew up in a time where the things that he was saying was okay. This is why he doesn't think there's anything wrong with just spouting it out in the locker room amongst people that don't look like him. And it doesn't matter what sport, these owners come from the same ilk. And they all, now I won't say all feel the same way, but for the most part, especially the old money owners, they don't care how people feel about what they say. They feel like they can't be touched because their money is so long.
Yeah.
So not only is it nothing new to me, but yeah, they need to start being held accountable. And the reason they feel they can do these things is because they've never been held accountable. So I forgot the Clippers owner name, but the same thing needs to happen. Yeah, Donald Sterling. I mean, until they start seeing the dominoes fall consistently, we're gonna keep seeing stories like this.
Dak, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think there's some interesting points that you brought up here on what is a terrible situation. And I mean, and let's be honest, with the weekend sports we've had, we might as well get used to it for the next hour, because that's all we're going to be doing is really talking about some crappy situations. But to start off with this one, listen, the whole Donald Sterling thing happened in 2013. And to me, first of all, he was ousted and banned for life from the NBA. Yes. And if all the stuff with Robert Sarver and the Phoenix Suns are true, seems way worse and more, just a lot more there. Mm-hmm. So I would see no reason why 8 years later, during the culture that we live in, or during the time we live in, rather, why he would keep
climate.
Why would he? Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Why he would not be held accountable and really wind up staying as the owner of the Suns, I just don't see possible. And the next point I wanted to make is, at this point, ESPN's going out and they're going in and they're getting all this stuff from Sarver, the Suns. They're launching a whole thing. There is no excuse, and I mean no excuse, why the same thing has not been done for the Washington football team. Let's get this out in the open now, because that is the stuff that pisses me off, because we all know something's going on, and for some reason the NFL has not jumped all in, or even ESPN or a big site or a sports network that knows that if they put a story out and they get the facts, it could do the justice it needs to be. It can lead to justice being served. And seeing all this in Phoenix, just at this point, really opens the floodgates to really just take Washington and get whatever's shady stuff is going on there.
I do want to get to that or something similar to it. But before that, I will say that the difference between Donald Sterling and Robert Sarver is that there was evidence with Donald Sterling, right? We had a audio tape. These are allegations from former employees and current employees. So there is a difference in those two situations. It's much easier to execute and say, yes, it needs to be removed because there is, again, actual evidence. Right. Knowing that fact, though, do you still feel like this is something where it's a slam dunk as it needs to be removed? Or do you need to dig further?
The latter of what you said. We need to dig up more stuff. And although it does sound horrible,
yes,
we also have to respect the fact that there are allegations and we need to make sure they're proven true, which from what it all seems like, it wouldn't shock me at all. And I don't think it shocks any of us.
I'm gonna double down. Not only are these just allegations, I mean,
it's 70 employees, former and current. So it's a good grouping, good size of people that
even with the grouping, I'm just going based on the historical nature of how these people have operated within American society. This is the norm. You can't tell me what to do because I own you, essentially. Not like I'm not talking slavery own you, but I'm the one who pays the bills here, so you can't talk to me. That's their mindset.
Similar to the McNair situation about the comments he made.
Exactly.
I believe his name was. He's now passed. His son just made another comment. He was in the news. Cal McNair, as if the Houston Texans, needed to further embarrass themselves.
It's a culture that's passed down. This is nothing new. So I'm go ahead.
No, I agree with that. And for me, it's gotten to the point where we've seen owners of organizations exposed before. We mentioned Donald Sterling. We're talking about, watching the football team get exposed in the past, right? And every time it's treated as a one-off, as an isolated incident. And I think that's the issue, that we continue to treat these as an isolated incident where these are owners who are comfortable speaking this way around their employees or to their employees. And to me, they're still having these conversations behind closed doors amongst themselves. Why are we not at this point conducting investigations of every organization? Why are we not looking at this as we need to get to the problem? Let's not wait. Let's be proactive. This is a very reactionary response. Every time it's a leak, whether it's a tape, whether it's emails now, we are leaking information, then going to do an investigation. We constantly allow for these billionaires and these millionaires to dictate what the conduct should be. Not until someone is a whistleblower do we find there's an issue. There are clearly issues. We know that just based on information we know about society, especially our culture here in America. There has to be a more proactive approach, in my opinion, when it comes to these organizations. We can sift out and sniff out where the issues are and remove the problems rather than waiting for them to rear their ugly heads. I don't know what you guys think about it, but that's how I feel.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of annoying with the slow drip because there's more out there.
Yeah,
you absolutely know. And Declan alluded to it with the Washington football team. Steph, I can't remember if we had a whole segment on that. Do you want me to hold off? Because I have a lot to say about that as well.
Have a whole segment on it? No, I didn't plan a whole segment on it. You could go off.
So, and I think it's actually worse in NFL circles because there's even bigger money in those NFL circles. So the reason you're not seeing you're seeing John Gruden take the fall for all those things that were going on with the Washington football team is because almost every owner could be implicated. Because that's how they talk behind closed doors. Just listen how some of these owners talked when Kaepernick was kneeling and the disrespect they showed their players when the players were fighting for something that they believed in, but they weren't fighting the way they wanted them to fight. So they were telling them how they should fight, even though they have no clue on what the experience is like. Zero. But because they're the ones cutting the checks, this is how it has to be done because I say so. And Lord knows they use a lot more colorful language than that when it comes to it. So, one, Declan is 100% right. The Washington football team, all that's going on with that organization needs to come to light. But two, I don't think it ever will because of how high those arms reach. Yeah, not the implications of how high the owner's arms reach. It won't happen.
I mean, who's being implicated?
These owners are in politicians' pockets too.
I mean,
if we're being real,
Stephen Ross was, I mean, he had ties to the whole Trump administration and stuff like that. That's the owner of the Dolphins.
I'm not even talking just to Donald Trump. I'm talking,
I'm
congressional Senate.
Yeah. He was
I gave the first
example.
Yeah. I'm talking about the actual lawmakers because these are big business guys. They're in big oil, big tech, whatever. So they have a lot of big influence. Pharma. There's a big pharma. There's a lot of corporate influence in our country, and they can do a lot with that.
Drain the swamp.
The irony.
Yeah, right. But I want to move on because there's a lot to cover. And the next thing I want to talk about is Aaron Rodgers, which is at this point unavoidable, right? This is huge controversy, huge news. As you all might know, Aaron Rodgers was placed on the COVID restriction list after testing positive for COVID-19. It was assumed that he had the vaccine because when he was asked by reporters if he was vaccinated, he said he's immunized, which was shiesty at best. We now know that he wasn't because the protocols that they've been using are that of an unvaccinated player. And Rodgers has been seen around the facility, at press conferences, and just out and about without a mask. So he wasn't even protecting himself, even though he was not vaccinated. The man straight up lied. He's about being vaccinated and possibly endangered numerous lives of players and their families, countless others that he got in touch with, staff and members of the Packers football organization. And this is a very serious offense. But in the media, it really has not been talked about that same way. Specifically, I want to talk about Stephen A. because his response to Aaron Rodgers coming out and being called a liar, he called him a liar. That's it. But his tone was very apologetic. He even praised him for saying it was impressive that he lied so well. The whole tone of Stephen A.'s delivery was very off. But then he wanted him
suspended, so the guy doesn't make sense.
But asking for a suspension to me just seems like protocol. But the tone of voice and the words that you choose are important because this is the same Stephen A. Smith who destroyed Kyrie Irving. He eviscerated Kyrie Irving for being transparent about his status, caring about following the protocols that the NBA has in place for unvaccinated players, and caring about his teammates and their families. That is the same Stephen A. Smith that destroyed Kyrie Irving. And I do want to open this up, and Deck, I'll start with you. And this is the question, right? Do you believe that Aaron Rodgers and this controversy has anything to do with rather how the kitty gloves have kind of been used for him? Does that have anything to do with his whiteness? Or do you just believe this is a case where the situations are different? Because we do have a stark difference in a very similar time frame of Kyrie and Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it is a stark difference between the two leagues, and for a couple of reasons. One, as Greg alluded to, the owners in the NFL is a very tight circle, and it's always been a predominantly conservative league. There's no surprise about that. And overall, those guys, the way the NFL runs that league is going to lean on the conservative side. Hence why unvaccinated players are allowed to play. Yeah, you can be unvaccinated and play for any team in the league. It may piss the owner off, it may piss the team off, but there is no official mandate. Sure, the protocols against unvaccinated players make you think, why would anybody want to be unvaccinated in the NFL and have to follow that? But they do allow you to play unvaccinated, just with stricter protocols. In the NBA, with Kyrie and the Nets, you cannot be a Brooklyn Net and play in the Barclays Center and not be vaccinated. That's the rules. The NBA, which was originally a more conservative league, has shifted very liberal over the past couple of years, especially since Adam Silver came in. The players have more control than they used to, and it's not that owner-run league that it used to be, that the NFL still is today. So I think the stark difference is that Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin, where if he's vaccinated or not, it's not going to be a huge uproar. Listen, Lamar Jackson's not vaccinated. I don't think Josh Allen's vaccinated. Kirk Cousins isn't vaccinated. So there's nothing new about vaccinated QBs in the NFL. Cam Newton got cut because he was vaccinated. Whether that has something to do with it.
Wasn't, yeah, because he wasn't vaccinated. Yeah,
not vaccinated. Right. Or, sorry. That was a bit of, I don't want to say a false statement, but that was I should have said he was it was rumored that it had something to do with it. They obviously has denied it and stuff. Whether it did or didn't, I mean, there's a lot of reasons at bay with the whole Max situation. But I think that Kyrie,
my foot fell asleep.
What's up?
Greg made a face. It's because I made a face. My foot fell asleep. Keep going, bro. You're going off. Do you think?
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's really offensive that your foot can stay awake during my little spiel.
I'd apologize.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say, really. I do think that with Kyrie's whole, and you kind of saw Rodgers take a shot when he said today.
Well, I'm going to give that quote. Yeah.
Flat earther. That might have been a shot at Kyrie because he saw the writing on the wall of how the comparisons have come in. I disagree with you, Stefan, that I think the media has created a firestorm. I'm seeing on ESPN, every time I go into the dining hall, I've gone twice today for your information. I've gone twice. Every time ESPN is on the TV, I saw a headline today. Should Aaron Rodgers be suspended? I saw Jay Williams going off on Stephen A today about the whole situation.
One of the few.
Everybody should be.
So I do see on ESPN, there is a lot of things. Tebow said he shouldn't be suspended, and I thought he made fair points. Where do you draw the line? Rodgers was deceitful, yes. People will come out and defend and say he didn't directly lie. It's a lie of omission. I mean, he said he was immunized. Everyone assumed he meant vaccinated. Well, that technically isn't a lie. Yes, he was immunized.
He didn't answer the question directly, and the reporter didn't follow up well enough.
Correct. It was a perfect storm, and it was a perfect storm of finesse that should not be looked at in a positive light that Stephen A. looked at.
So, Deck, I do want to, you brought up the quote that Aaron Rodgers had on the Pat McAfee show, and it's this: I'm not an anti-vaxxer or flat earther, which is the shot at Kyrie. Right. I have an analogy to the ingredients that are in the mRNA vaccine. I found a long-term immunization protocol to protect myself, and I'm very proud of the research that went into that. So that was his quote. We don't know the research necessarily, and it's not something that's approved by the NFL at all. And Rodgers is just telling us that he's found another way.
So yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, but Greg, I just want to give you a chance to speak on it. What do you think this is? Do you agree with Deck?
In terms of the stark difference of the league and how it's viewed with the conservative ownership versus the more liberal ownership, because let's not get it twisted, they're still conservative in the NBA. They're just a little less conservative. So I just want to make that clear. But you are right in terms of regard.
You're completely right.
But Aaron Rodgers is full of shit, man. Because had that been any other quarterback, and I think the reason Jay Will was going in on Stephen A, because Stephen A essentially gave him a pass at first.
Yeah.
You know, in tone and everything. And Jay Will was going in on him because why was it so easy for him to give him that pass? Because if say that's, you know, a Cam Newton, he's calling him all sorts of names.
Yeah.
You know? And why I say Aaron Rodgers full of shit, not because he's not vaccinated, because again, that's your choice. But he said he got his advice from Joe Rogan's podcast. Like, Joe Rogan is the most popular podcast in the country. I get it. People listen to him. But why are you taking scientific advice from a podcast? That's no better than the hoteps that go on YouTube and start shouting from the heavens about what you're supposed to follow.
Yeah.
You know, and so there was a lot of cloak and dagger, you know, from Aaron Rodgers, and it was very deceitful. And he should, if Aaron Rodgers would have came out and said, I'm like, look at Cole Beasley. Nobody's giving Cole Beasley shit now because he came out and said what he said, and it's over with, and we've moved on.
Yeah,
he's COVID Beasley, but who cares?
Yeah,
he said what he's stupid things. So he's making a big deal. He got off Twitter. He made a diss track. I mean,
but what I'm saying is, he said something stupid, but are we talking about it now? We're not talking about it now.
Yeah.
You know, but Aaron Rodgers was moving like he was vaccinated, whereas these other guys they may not believe in it. Again, that's your choice.
Yeah,
but you're deceiving your own teammates.
Well, know? I mean, the organization did know, right? So it's also the organization is held culpable as well.
I was just gonna say, not only just the organization, the NFL as well, because paperwork has to be submitted. The NFL got caught with the NFL's problem, and this is something that will rarely ever happen on this show. But I have to give a shout out to Travis because he said the NFL is not proactive; they are reactive, and that's exactly right. They could have gotten ahead of this, but they didn't, and they have no one to fault but themselves. Same with the Packers organization. You knew what you were dealing with.
Yeah. Okay, so I hear what the both of you are saying, but this is where I disagree with you both. I understand that the circumstances are different, right? But where they overlap, where there's a similarity, is that we're talking about this virus and how both sports are approaching it. And really, Kyrie was killed and, you know, dragged through all of the media streets because he chose not to, saying he needed more time. He wanted to do more research. He wasn't comfortable. But here it is, Aaron Rodgers lied. But not only did he lie, he wasn't even following protocol. He was breaking protocol for someone who's not vaccinated. I don't care if he found his own method of immunization. I just don't believe that you aren't going to follow the unvaccinated protocols for unvaccinated players, and you can just be like and the response is he's a liar, he needs to be suspended. That is a very soft take. I just want there to be in the media, or when we speak about these kind of situations, have a more even take, because you can't say the things they said about Kyrie and to the degree of his character, because it was assassination of his character.
Oh, absolutely. He's been getting assassinated since he said the earth was flat.
True. No, very true. And that's why you have Rodgers saying it on the Pat McAfee show. But what I'm saying is I just can't agree with how we're approaching Aaron Rodgers or treating Aaron Rodgers when he lied about being immunized, but also did not follow protocols. This is someone that is putting other people at risk. That's a villain. Like you would think Kyrie is the villain. Kyrie did everything he needed to do and followed the protocols to not affect anyone else that is vaccinated or isn't vaccinated. Right. I just don't like that. The optics.
You know what? You're 100% right. And this is a case where two things can be true, where you could agree with us and still add that, and we can agree with you because you're 100% right. And Carl's wife said it best. Aaron Rodgers does what he wants. The Packers allow it, and the league allows it.
And that's
it's common knowledge.
You won't see huge punishment, and that's what Travis and I were getting at yesterday. Is that I don't see anything more than a fine. I mean,
just
you're not
because
or a suspension here. I mean, it's not happening.
Just because he won't see a punishment doesn't mean it shouldn't happen.
I agree. Yes, that is completely accurate. 3 things here that I wanted to bring up. Mm-hmm. 1, Rodgers said today on Pat McAfee show that he followed unvaccinated protocols to a T. The only thing that is in question that I've heard, and not to defend Rodgers, but is that he was at the podium with his mask off having these conversations. So that is something that he was doing. Whether I know a lot of reporters are on Zoom, I feel like it's not the stuffiest environment based on what I've talked about. You guys obviously know Chris Williamson. He worked for the Packers for a while in Green Bay, and he's told stories about Rodgers in the media and stuff. And it doesn't feel like it's not the stuffiest environment in there. But Steph, I think you're absolutely right in that Kyrie got villainized. 2 other things I just wanted to mention that were brought up is that I'm not sure if anyone might have got lost in translation or just me at first, probably just me. But he didn't take advice from Joe Rogan on how to be vaccinated, because that would make him a moron, because Joe Rogan has no idea about any vaccination. Yeah. Like he's about as clueless as much as, good podcast. Sure. He's clueless when it comes to that stuff. He's he's been using the ivermectin. Is that what it is? He used it since he has COVID, and he says he's been feeling really good. That's all schemes. And the third thing I wanted to say was Shailene Woodley, his fiance, was into this Eaton Clay shit like a long time ago. All these weird things that help your body and all these rituals. So I smell a rat behind the surface, and I'm going to go out and say that I think she has a lot to do with it. And listen, I think the whole personal matter thing is that Kyrie said it was a personal matter, and he didn't want to discuss it.
Yeah.
Kyrie's a big personality where everyone knew the media was going to go after him, whether there's race implications there or not. Sure. That argument, I'm not going to sit here and say there's not, or if there is, because frankly, at my age and my position, I feel like I don't know fully what is behind that as far as that goes. But I think that Rodgers decided he was going to make it a private matter, and he literally moved about it, knowing that he wouldn't have those kinds of severe questioning that Kyrie would have. Granted, Kyrie, maybe a lot of it does have to do with Kyrie's past on, saying the flat earth stuff and whatnot. He's always been a lightning rod.
He's a lightning rod, exactly.
Rodgers hasn't necessarily, steered clear of everything throughout his career too.
For different reasons.
Completely. So I think it's a very complicated situation, and there are many different angles to it. But that's all I really have to say for the most part on it today.
Greg,
so yeah. Also, just to add to his whole anti-vax comment and flat earth comment, it's one. If you say you're anti-vax, why are you spouting out? If you say you're not anti-vax, then why do you follow that up with anti-vax rhetoric? He said the quote, I go back to these two questions for the woke mob. If the vaccine is so great, how come people are still getting COVID and spreading COVID and unfortunately dying from COVID? If the vax is safe, how come the manufacturers of the vaccine have full immunity? And I don't know how much you guys are into political speak, but woke mob is the term that's used for the people who think they know best, you know, and that's a direct phrasing correlation from the anti-vax community. These are some of the things they say. Why say I'm not an anti-vaxxer and then follow it up with that? It makes them look crazy.
Well, it's like any person that's like, I'm not a racist, but I'm not a sexist, but like whenever you start with that, you're always going to be the thing that you're saying you're not. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah, you try to say the contrary, but it's very much so just that on its face, anti-vax.
Yeah. Travis said it best. He was doing way too much. I mean, you can't contradict yourself like that. And what doesn't make a sense.
You got a whole Halloween party.
Yeah, well, that's
John Wick.
You look about it.
He wasn't shooting bullets. He was shooting COVID.
Listen, guys, Aaron Rodgers was immunized. Immunized. It's too much.
Bro, it's a hard one. Trust. I was practicing in the mirror.
I know I should have, but John Wick must not have been immunized. So listen, I don't know. That was kind of whatever, but I think with the whole Rodgers thing and everything, what surprised me going back to the political hemisphere of things is that he was very critical of Trump even now. I mean, even you could see how the way he talked today, like knowing for a fact that he's been against a lot of the stuff, to then reference when Trump was coming out, was, saying stuff about the vaccine.
Yeah.
The left was against it, and then Biden came and it all switched. I mean,
I think it has everything to do with him. Yeah. No. I don't think it's a reach or anything, but that has everything to do with him being under the microscope now. He wasn't before. And so now that he's the one that's being criticized and that he could potentially be dragged, he needs to pull out all the stops. It's just self-preservation. That's why he's dragging Kyrie, even though he didn't have to mention it in that statement, right? I'm not a flat earther, but the comparisons have been there because to me, they are comparable still.
And one thing I will say about COVID, it's become very politicized, like super.
It's another lightning rod,
and that is what Rodgers said today, and I think he is right in that.
So, and I think what we also have to acknowledge is, I don't think COVID falls along the lines of political ideologies, because there's a lot of people, and it shouldn't, but there's a lot of people who believe in different things but fall on one side of the anti-vax versus vax, and I think that there's a lot of blurred lines when we're discussing, and people are so staked in their side that they're not really hearing what other people are saying. That being said, there is still some common sense we need to follow. And I feel like Aaron Rodgers lacked, and which is, wow, shocker, 2 times in a row. Travis was right.
Is Travis coming on the Sunday show? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, he is.
Directly? Okay.
And that he was doing too much. He really was.
Yeah.
It won't happen again. I promise you it won't happen again.
I don't believe that for a second. You did it in the same segment, so there's a chance it could happen again. I do agree with that. And I think as we not having more information, but as people, the talking heads speak more on this, I think it's going to become more polarized, right? We're going to see how the media is truly, and we're actually waiting to the next athlete that something similar happens to.
The next major athlete, because the minor ones, nobody cares about.
You're right. The next major athlete. That is very true. So we shall see.
That's why I traded him for Daniel Jones.
All right,
you're gonna go to sleep dreaming about that.
He just might. So
totally. There's a joke in there somewhere, probably. But I'm gonna.
So I want to move on to this next topic, and that's the Henry Ruggs car crash that happened earlier this week. And before I start, I just want to say rest in peace to Tina Tinter. She's a 23-year-old woman who died in the fatal car crash along with her dog. All right. And before we actually get into everything, we did have a special guest I want to bring on, who Hitless contributor. If anyone that's in any Hitless chats with him, you've seen his stance on this, but I want to bring him on to talk about it, and that's Eddie Gonzalez. Eddie, how you doing, bro? Oh, you're still coming in. It's all right. I like that background, though. San Fran somewhere.
Big E, what's going on?
He just wiped his screen off.
You there, Eddie? You hear us?
Eddie being on the show is the only thing, the only lick of good news that has come from this Friday show that feels like a Monday show. And I know it's going to fade quick because of the topic we're talking about.
Yeah. Hey, well, but it has to be spoken about, though. Eddie, can you hear us?
I hear you fine. I'm trying to get the headset on. Hold on one second.
Awesome,
Sorry.
Awesome. All good.
First
Take
time
your
with his
time
new headset.
That's kind of in and out. You good?
Yeah, I hear you. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. A little bit of echo too.
So, yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. They moved me on instruction.
It's all okay, man. It does happen. But let me just for those that haven't heard this story yet, let's give you a little background. So former Las Vegas wide receiver Henry Ruggs was out Monday night into early Tuesday morning. And in that time span, he had consumed about 18 drinks, they said, and he decided to drive with his girlfriend in the car. According to reports, he was driving excess or upwards of 156 miles an hour right before the impact. And apparently with this impact, it was so forceful that it ended up rupturing the fuel tank of Tina's car and causing it to ignite almost immediately. And Ruggs' blood alcohol level that night was a 0.161, which is almost double what is legal. And to make matters worse, the NFL Player Association, back in, I think, 2013, contracted rideshare services to provide free transportation for members of the NFL for specific situations just like this. So he did not take advantage of that. Now, Ruggs could be
free transportation anyway.
Yeah. But look, so Ruggs could be facing charges of DUI causing a death and or a DUI causing substantial bodily harm. Both carry a possible 2 to 20 years in state prison. And then there's a possible 1 to 6 years that could be taken on for a reckless driving charge. In total, Ruggs could be looking at 46 years in prison without any option of probation because it's not allowed in the state of Nevada. Since the crash has happened, we've had some friends and family members and teammates come out in support of Ruggs. One of the most notable ones is Derek Carr, which he had this to say: "I will always be there for him. That won't change. And I'll prove that over the course of time to him, not to anybody else. He's probably feeling a certain type of way right now. He needs to be loved. If no one else will do it, I'll do it." Now, these comments were met with very different reactions from different groups of people. And Eddie, as our guest, I want to start with you. What do you make of Derek Carr's comments regarding this situation? Do you think they were justified or did they miss the mark?
Well, let me first say I don't think there's side to this, to be honest with you, because I could see it from both sides. I could see it from the side of a friend, as a friend, you know, when someone knows they messed up, that they're going through something, especially if they're remorseful. And it looked as if they were remorseful. He was remorseful because he went back to the car and tried to get the person out of the car, So he was remorseful and he, looked like he was trying to be a good human for a mistake that he made. And on the other side, I see somebody who was innocent that didn't wake up thinking that they were going to die that day. And because someone made a selfish decision, it's not that they made a mistake. They made a selfish decision to go ahead and drive drunk, and not drive drunk, drive really drunk. Yeah. Okay. Drive a car way faster than a normal. My car doesn't even reach 100. Okay. So I don't mean to crack a joke, but my car doesn't even reach 100. His car went 156 miles an hour apparently, and as a result, someone died from that selfish action. So for me, when it comes to Carr, I understand what he's saying. However, some things don't need to be said. Let him, if he wants to love him, go ahead. That's fine. There's no judgment on that. But when you go ahead and send a message, which is what he did, that in a time where someone else died, this person needs to be loved. I guess by everybody. That's how we interpret it. Everybody should love him, but no one's going to love him, so I'm going to love him, right? The problem here is that you have a lot of idiots that go ahead and run with this. I saw so many different things.
Did we lose him?
I don't know, but I want to hear the point he's about to make.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, just go back like a
You said you
sentence or two.
you heard you saw so many different things.
I saw so many things on the message boards, like on TikTok and stuff, where they were comparing Caitlyn Jenner, what happened with Caitlyn Jenner, to this situation, and trying to make this into people trying to incriminate him because he was a black man, and people trying to incriminate him for something that it happened, and trying to blame everybody else but the person who stepped behind the wheel. Okay, as a result, that to me, and this is just my opinion, it makes it look as if you're trying to make or provide sympathy for him. Because instead of you saying, yes, he made a reckless action, the energy wasn't kept the same, but he did step behind the wheel drunk, and he did take someone's life. That's not the conversation, and that's what a message like he needs to be loved, and I'm going to love him. If no one wants to love him, I'll love him. That's the kind of message that's how people take that kind of message. I'm not saying all, but some people take that kind of message out.
I hear that. I feel that. Greg, what are your thoughts on this situation?
So my thoughts on the situation, Ruggs, like Eddie said, was selfish, stupid. Yeah. I kind of want to hear what his girlfriend has to say on this, to be honest. I really would like to hear her words. First of all, residential street, 156 miles an hour, it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, Steph, condolences to the family of Tina. But Eddie, I get where you're coming from to a point. And, where is you essentially want Derek Carr to be quiet, but understand that he was asked a question about this. This wasn't, he didn't go searching for this. They came to him, and he answered honestly as a friend. That just because he answered as a friend, your interpretation of that is saying, oh, it's for everybody to run with. No, that's your interpretation. All he was speaking on was his relationship with Henry Ruggs and nothing else, because he deemed him a friend. And it's very easy for any one of us, especially when we were younger, to make a stupid decision to get behind the wheel after drinking, and it could have been any one of us. And I don't think if it was one of us that you knew personally, that you knew, were good people, you would have such a hardline stance, because that, yes, it was selfish, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were a monster or a bad person. You have softened your stance since the initial post. So that I will give you credit for. But I do think what Carr was trying to do, while the world is bashing Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have many friends after this in terms of fans and the media and the public perspective. So I think Carr was gonna just try to let him know, like, hey, I'm there for you. I know you're going through a lot, but that doesn't take away from what happened to the Tina and her family.
Can I respond?
Hold on. Just I'm gonna get to Deck real quick, and then I'll give you a chance. Deck, give us your thoughts on this, please.
I'll share my thoughts in a sec. I think Eddie responding to Greg is crucial, because they're having back and forth. So I can take it. I can sit in the back seat.
No problem. All right, Eddie, please.
I'll make this brief. I understand that Derek Carr is coming from a place of from being a friend, right? But they didn't ask him, sir, do you love him? Do you love him? Do you think he deserves to be loved? Do you think he deserves sympathy? That's the message he promoted. And once again, I'll be honest with you. Everything changes when there's no lesson that a person can learn. And the lesson that somebody, the patient, the lesson that Ruggs could have learned happened. There's no message. There's no, hey, listen, you messed up. Don't mess up next time. The message is for the rest of the world, but not for him. So I understand where you can say that, as a friend, you want to show love. Do it yourself. You have a big platform. If I'm the family, I'm taking it from the family perspective, because at this point, the people who suffer the most right now is the family. They have to listen to that. Now, don't get me wrong. If they choose to forgive him, that's on them. Now, we've seen cases where a child was murdered and they forgive the killer and things like that. That's on them. I don't have to forgive. It's not none of my. I have no stake in this. Just in my opinion, I think the message would have been good if he didn't mention, hey, I think he needs to be loved, and no one wants to love him, so I'll love him. That's the only piece of what he said that I have an issue with. And it's not even an issue. It's just like, I wouldn't have said that. But I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, Deck, before you go, we have a surprise guest. Boss Man decided he wanted to jump on here and give his take. So I want to wait for him to come in. But I would like for you to go first, Deck, and then we'll hear what Carl has to say.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what bring him in.
Yeah, I just
Mr.
thought.
Coulage.
There he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
we can hear you.
Hey,
All right.
welcome. Thanks for joining, Carl. Just going to let Deck go, and then we'll let you jump in, all right?
All right. Go ahead real
Let's
quick
cut,
because I
Carl.
got like 5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Of course. Deck, hit it.
Yeah, pretty much. I listen. I thought I needed to listen to what Greg and Eddie had to say because they made very good points.
Mhm.
And I think I see both sides as this is a multi-sided issue. I think the thing with drunk drivers, and I said this in the chat earlier in the week, thing with drunk drivers, and I'm not looking to make an excuse for what Henry Ruggs did because it's horrible what he did, but I don't see him as a monster, and I think that drunk driving is one of those crimes where a good person could be guilty of a crime and could easily make that mistake. I mean, it's so unfortunate when you have 18 drinks. I mean, we do have to take into account the fact that he did not it is a tough situation when you are that drunk. Listen, I've never had 18 drinks in my life. I mean, that's insane. But
In one sitting.
when you do stuff like that and you get behind the wheel, it's very easy to make that mistake. And it's unfortunate. And that's why we see so much of it. And Ziggy brings up a great point in the comments. Like, he was sobbing, was going nuts. And he did try to get into the flames to help the victim get out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think what Carr said from a friend's standpoint is everything you'd want a friend to say. And I think Carr is really real for what he said. The only thing missing from his statement was I think that when he's talking about, how he gets emotional, walking by his locker because he's not there. I think that would have been the perfect, way in to get a condolence to the family in there. Because you know what? Listen, I'm sure that the parents of the poor girl who was 23 years old who got killed feels the same way when they set their dinner table at night. She's not there. I'm sure that makes them upset. Henry Ruggs, in a way for Carr, it probably does feel like he lost a friend too. Like he might as well be dead and as far as Derek Carr goes. Because obviously the relationship that Henry Ruggs and Carr have is not going to be a team relationship anymore. So they're not going to have that working teammate relationship. So to keep it quick for Carl to get the rest, to get his points in on this surprise guest. Everybody wants to hear what Carl says, no matter what the conversation is.
This angle is interesting, actually.
It is very
Listen, I only chime in when I feel like there's something I got to get off my chest. So I don't mean to intrude, but
please.
I rarely use the EP card, but here, respect to what Eddie said, but I guess I'm taking it from a Catholic approach, and Greg would know this from the fact that we went to Catholic school and we known about.
I think Derek Carr did also.
Right, and we have to understand it again. We're all human, and I challenged everyone in the group to do this: is to go back in your bag and look at anything that you've ever done that was completely wrong. And I'm not going to sit here and you don't have to say it, but just think about the things that you've done completely wrong. And somebody that you've known that's done something completely wrong in life. Would you want somebody to be there for that person? Given that I understand what happened, and my condolences to the family of the loved one. But given the fact that we all make terrible mistakes, who are we to say that Carr shouldn't have been there to say that he needs love and support? Who do we know his mental state? And this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we don't know what his mental state is at the given fact. And again, he's probably going to get his judgment when it comes to the law and what he has to face. He's definitely going to jail.
He's 100%
right. Absolutely. But, and again, I've had these conversations with people and they're like, God forbid my kid ever did something egregious where they committed murder, would I still be there for them? I would. Because at the end of the day, I can't say that if I ever did something, would I want somebody to be there for me to call on me? Absolutely. I've had family members who have been in prison for years, and I'm there to show them support, sending them money and being there for them how many times they mess up because, again, something's not right. So from that aspect where I disagree with Eddie is, again, we can't sit here and say Carr shouldn't have said, well, you're not supposed to love somebody, because that's what you need in a time of, of grief or something that you did that was that bad, that you need somebody to be there to say, hey, it's going to be okay. And he completely understands that he's getting vilified for it all over media. We all understand that. But if all it takes is one person to come out and just say, I got you. Like, I don't agree with what you did. I know you're going to suffer for it, but I'm going to show you some love and support. That can help somebody go a long way because we don't know his mental state. That's my only thing with it is that, I see where Carr is coming from, and God does forgive. We all seem to forget. If you go to penance and we go to reconciliation that we learned when we were in the second grade, he will forgive you. regardless of whatever you do, and he will forgive. So I think he's gonna go through his act of contrition. He's gonna, face the penalties. Will he be forgiven? And you don't even know if the families want to forgive him too. That's another part of it. And a lot of times we see victims where they forgive the people for what they've done over time. So I think us not giving him that opportunity is just not being fair. That's all I'm saying. And again, I understand what he did. What he did is completely wrong. I'm not agreeing with what he did, drunk driving. And I also blame the girlfriend for getting in the car with him for that matter and allowing him to do that. But we also have to have a little bit of room of empathy just to say, we got you. That's all I gotta say. I gotta go to a conference, guys. You guys be well. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for jumping on.
All right.
He's gonna listen to this later, right?
Yeah. Of course.
So,
He's probably still listening right now.
I just want to reply to that. Just really quick. I'll leave it out there, I'm not gonna make it in depth, but there's a fine line when you're mentioning forgiveness. You're mentioning being there to support, and everybody gets forgiven. Now let's go ahead. What about a person that abuses their child because they're stressed out? What about a person that beats their wife or beats their husband because they're stressed out or drunk? What about a child molester? Are these things right there? Now, these might be drastic, but death is drastic too. So what I'm saying here is that at the end of the day, you can say that, and that's wonderful. But there's a point. None of us, I can't speak for everybody. I don't know if somebody mistakenly killed somebody here in this group, but none of our worst things that we've ever done took the life of somebody else. So that changes things. We can't relate to that. None of us, again, I can't speak for everybody. We cannot relate to this because unless in action, we made a mistake and we swerved somebody off the road and the car drove off the mountain and whatever it is, we cannot relate to one of our actions coming and resulting in a death. We can't. So it's easy for us to say, and it's not vilifying Carr, because I could understand what Carr's saying completely, but he has the platform, the family does not. And the message that he spread is this man needs love. Yes, as a Christian, yeah, we believe it. The person needs love because he's going through hell right now. He's remorseful, and if he had to do it again, he probably wouldn't. He had all the resources in the world to not have to do that, but he didn't. He made it's a selfish decision. Forget about monster. I use monster. That's my fault. He's not a monster. I don't think he's a monster. No. He's selfish. I think that's a worse word than monster. Selfish, because selfish can be prevented. Sometimes monster you cannot. Sometimes monster you can't do nothing about it. You just are. Some things turn you that way. But selfish is an action that you can choose to take or not take.
Dick, you have something you want to say to respond to that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good points in there, but I think what we do have to remember as horrible and potentially unforgivable both in the justice system and in the court of public opinion is that it was an accident. As horrible as it was an accident. And somebody died, and he should go to jail 100%. There's no excuse for what he did. It was an accidental killing, and that's that. I think that's very different than forgiving somebody who intentionally kills somebody or intentionally inflicts pain on somebody and is just a worse person. Somebody who beats someone's wife, or somebody who who's a wife beater, who is domestic abuse, a domestic abuser, or a child molester, or an active a murderer, is somebody way worse than somebody like Henry Ruggs, who gets behind the wheel and kills somebody. Listen, I don't agree with what he did. What he did is horrible. I mean, there's no defense for what he did. What he did was a terrible act, and it's going to cost him his career, cost him the rest of his life, and more important, it cost somebody else their life. And that's why it's such an emotional topic. But I think to paint him in a picture of, all these other criminals, this is what they do. I don't think Henry Ruggs, I don't think it makes him a criminal, as sad as it is. In the court of law, yes. I think a criminal is somebody who is a bad person who makes terrible decisions, a bad person who does terrible things to terrible people. I don't think Henry Ruggs was an active murderer in this case. And I think he's going to be treated as such. And you know what? Frankly, as sad as it is, he should be treated as, he should get jail time and significant time for this because it's a crime. He killed somebody. But I don't put him in the light of somebody who's just a bad dude. Because those people you labeled, like the wife beaters, the domestic abusers, the murderers, and stuff like that, those people are monsters, in my opinion.
I'm talking about alcohol influence. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I actually, I'm going to make a quick statement. I haven't been able to go yet. Eddie, I don't necessarily disagree with your whole statement. I do feel like where I come from, though, is that Carr is making a statement on to like behalf of the organization, behalf of himself, and to me needed to be more balanced. It wasn't balanced, right? Like he could have acknowledged the accountability that Henry Ruggs does deserve. He should be held accountable and still give love. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be without the accountability and say I have to give him love only because he did take someone's life. This was a decision he made. There are countless people that are making these decisions to drive drunk in this specific case, and they can impact other people's lives. And I believe Eddie is right. He took someone's life. Yes, he's going through crap right now, and I don't necessarily think that a friend and a family member that is talking to him personally has to go through the steps that Derek Carr did. He put out a public statement. And by doing that, it does have an impact on the family that lost their daughter. She was close to home. She was just heading home. And all of a sudden, a Ruggs with 18 drinks in him, thinking that 156 miles per hour is an appropriate speed to be going on a local road, ended her life. Yes, I believe that there should be love there, and he will need that. But it needs to be balanced. There needs to be accountability. Those are decisions he made. Those are steps he took to end up in that position. And we don't know because Carl said about his girlfriend, we don't know what his girlfriend said before that point, whether she was trying to stop him and she chose to go with him still.
That's why I said I would love to hear
what
she has
so
to
we
say.
don't know the the video at the talking about after the crash where he's crying. And also
there's a ton. There was video from 2 years ago of his girlfriend telling him to slow down in the car.
Yeah.
So
we don't know what she did the night of. The other point I want to make is because Ziggy said in the chat he was crying. Those tears, we don't know what those tears are for. It could be that the situation was just traumatic and he's crying because it's happening to him and it's surreal. He might be crying because he thinks his career's over, his life's over. Those tears do not have to be for the victim. We cannot assume just because he's on the side of the road crying that he is thinking about this woman. Yes, he tried to go save her. I think that is a natural instinct. But his tears don't mean as much to me because I do not know what he's crying for. There's a lot that he could be crying for in that moment, and we don't know that. So I wouldn't add that into the mix for it for me. I believe he can be remorseful, and I believe he can be forgiven. That does not mean in this moment that we cannot hold him accountable and still have love for him. And in this case, for Derek Carr. So I just think Derek Carr's statement was missing the piece of accountability because the love was important to have.
I think honestly, in Eddie's, that's why I said I didn't fully disagree with Eddie. There were some points he made where I agree with him, but I think that was the word that was missing. That Carr should have held Ruggs accountable as well. But I focus more on, Eddie kind of taking away from it, that it was kind of, taking a crap on the victim's family.
Yeah.
Where I didn't see it as that as much.
I could see that still, though. I could still see that, though, because the victim's family is like they're monitoring everything. I mean, they've been very private. They have not released a statement from what I know. And to hear people that are like, he needs to be loved. He needs to be loved. You, as a victim, as the family member, you're like, what about us? We actually lost something. Mm-hmm. Yes, Henry Ruggs, if you're a friend of his or a family member, is going to be in prison for how many ever years, but you could go visit Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs will eventually be out. He has the opportunity to continue his life, maybe not in football, but he can go on to do whatever he wants or after however long this prison sentence is. But Tina,
hold on. You said something, Steph, and both of you guys make great points. And I think this is once again another topic where there's a ton of nuance. At least when it comes to Carr's comments. Yeah. No. I'm talking about just Carr's comments.
Yeah.
Obviously, Henry Ruggs is on the wrong side of this. I think we could all agree there. Mm-hmm. But you said that Derek Carr put out a public statement. To me, putting out a public statement means you go out of your way to talk to the public. Was he not asked a question and then responded?
Yeah, he was.
I believe that's what it was. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to me, that's very different. And I think they caught him.
His platform to me is like you have to be conscious of it. I can't give a pass on that. Like,
but if so see, I don't think
no
that's
comment.
I don't think that's fair because you're talking now. Yes, Tina and her family are vulnerable, but now you have a public figure who's being asked a question who was also in a vulnerable moment, and he shared his honest feelings.
Yeah,
it's the same time where we ask athletes to be honest with us, and he was honest. Like you said, I do think he could have put some more accountability on Ruggs, but I don't think what he said was so egregious that it was taken away from.
I don't agree
everything
it's
else that
egregious.
happened.
I don't think it's egregious. I think the family could have issue with it. I don't think it's egregious. What I'm saying is there's no accountability.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm
there's no
talking about
wrong.
Eddie's
Yeah.
initial stance on it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came. He's back down since then though too. I feel like. So.
Yeah, no, but let me tell you, you hit the right word, accountability. At the end of the day, let me ask you a question. Derek Carr has been asked in the NFL how many questions? One or a ton?
A bunch.
He's
A bunch.
prepared. He's prepared for that. He's trained for that.
Whoa, that's not fair. You're not prepared for one of your friends to kill
That-
somebody.
that is a-
That's
that is
not
a
fair.
tough-
That's not what he
question.
said. He didn't say he's prepared for him to kill somebody. He said he's prepared.
What I'm saying,
Go
what
for
I'm
his line
saying
of
is
questioning, but it's a
not
tough
caught
question.
off guard. He was not caught off guard. I'm not saying he didn't speak from the heart. He did. And I'm not saying what he said was wrong. I can't say what he said was wrong because that's his feeling. I don't agree with the message. That's what I don't have a problem. I don't agree with the message. At the end of the day, I think Steph hit it right on the nail. He found the word that I was missing. Okay.
I agree.
Ruff,
Accountability.
what's his name? Ruff? No.
Ruggs?
The player. Ruggs.
Ruggs, yeah, Henry Ruggs. Mhm.
Ruggs had a choice. He made his choice. As a result, all choice has accountability. Accountability is the main word here. And for me, the message was free of him getting accountability. Now, as a friend, maybe you're not thinking about the accountability. Maybe you're not thinking, yo, man, this guy really messed up. He's going to serve his time, but while he's in jail, all those years that he deserved this for what he did, I'm going to be there to love and support him. No, it's, hey, he's going through a lot right now. Yes, he is. Let's show him some love. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. I don't disagree with what he said. He said, what most friends will say, I just cannot subscribe to that message in this situation.
I just want to say,
I think that's fair.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to say, I really appreciate this conversation. This is great to discuss this. It's important. It's tough. These are tough conversations to have, but I think they're important to have. And while we have been debating Derek Carr's statement, I think there's another statement that's out there that has just been drastically different. And I don't want to linger on it too long, but I felt like it is important to share this with everyone if they haven't heard it. And that's from Kadarius Toney, who chimed in with his own quote and his own line, which was, "We young, everybody makes mistakes. Y'all looking at the situation like this is or that because it ain't y'all. Have so much to say. We know he messed up. Don't drag him. We know he messed up. Don't drag him for it. That's goofy to me. Just pray for the families involved." Now, that to me is drastically different than a Derek Carr statement. While he's trying to maybe show some kind of love for Ruggs, it's just not stated the same way. It misses the mark completely, and it's incredibly insensitive. I think we could all agree about that.
Yep.
Super tone deaf.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. Take his phone away. I mean, I don't care if he's an NFL player. Take his phone.
Yeah.
Because what that shows me is that he's not ready to be in public, speaking on a public platform on situations that aren't his own. I mean, this is not the first issue we've had with Kadarius Toney tweeting either. Declan, as a Giants fan, I think you know this as well.
I know it all too well.
And and I'm sure as a Giants fan you can speak to this, you don't want to see your players in a situation like this coming out and speaking on it in such a tone deaf manner, because nobody asked him for this.
Yeah.
Nobody came
to
you.
Yeah. You want to talk about a public statement? He was not asked a thing about this. And if we're being honest, listen, Kadarius Toney plays on my favorite football team. I think he's a good player. Yeah. That is drug test this man. That is the dumbest fucking statement I've ever heard, ever.
PR training.
I'm sorry to be upset about. I'm sorry I cursed. Yeah. It is unbelievable how stupid what he said was. It is so bad. That's goofy to me.
Yeah.
Like using the word goofy.
Completely
a woman was killed and he's using the word goofy. Yeah. That's goofy to me. That's not goofy. That's just outright stupid. Kadarius Toney is an idiot for what he said. It is by far one of the worst tweets of 2021. And you know what? If he gets fined, and he probably won't get fined. If he gets fined, good. He won't. He won't get fined. But you know what? I think he should be fined because saying something like that is so damaging and it's so stupid. We young, we messed up.
Yeah.
All right, Kadarius. You made a mistake.
Zero accountability, and it's missing the mark of the love that Ruggs needs.
Like he didn't lift his leg on the field and pretend to take a piss. And nice segue to Odell, by the way. Yeah. But that's not what he. That's not what he.
Way to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, exactly. But it's ridiculous. It's nothing like he did something on the field, a little mistake. Listen, he killed someone accidentally, sure, but it was drunk driving and he made a criminal mistake and he's going to be charged for it. He's heard enough. He knows he messed up. Spare me. It's all BS. I'm like, it was when I saw that, I was like, I put my phone aside. I'm like, I'm not reading any of this nonsense anymore. I can't say it enough. Horrible tweet.
I get it.
What do you have to say?
Men.
Really quickly though, because we do want to move on.
I'll make it quick.
Yeah,
I get they're grown men and they have their own thing, but in this case, I think Joe Judge has to kind of like step up and be like, look, you need me to train it. You cannot tweet until you get me to train it.
Yeah, I think this needs to be a statement from the Giants, whether it's Joe Judge or someone else in the front office, the owner. Like someone needs to make a statement about that because he needs to be reined in, and they need to speak to the insensitivity.
The Giants could potentially fine him and not.
Yeah, they definitely could.
But he needs to be condemned. Listen, I'm not saying severe punishment or anything, but like a conversation needs to be had, and Joe Judge should be asked about this in the media. His Friday's big media availability day in the NFL, as we all know. He needs to be asked about it, and if he does anything other than condemn the stupid statement he made, then, well, you know what? Screw Joe Judge, because you know what? He hasn't been that great of a coach to not freaking condemn a rookie player who makes a stupid tweet like that. If Odell made a tweet like that, it would make back page news. Actually, it would make front page news. So let's just put that out there. It's
Eddie. Absurd. You have anything else you want to close out on?
Well, with this guy, he pretty much said we're young and dumb. We're young and dumb, so we make mistakes. That doesn't cut it. That's a terrible message. I don't have as much of a problem with Carr's message as this one. This one was terrible.
I understand.
That's all.
No positive.
Yeah, no. Hey, I hear that, Eddie. I just want to say thank you for coming on, man, and being a part of this conversation, this discussion. Really appreciate you taking time out in the world, making calls on your new headphones.
Yeah. Out from San Fran.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take care, man. Have a good one.
Later.
And as Declan alluded to, with the Odell comment, we are going to move on to Odell and the news there because Odell Beckham is on the move. Where we don't know yet, but after being unable to move OBJ before the trade deadline, the Browns have decided to release him outright. And it comes on the heels of his father putting out a video on IG, an 11-minute video of Baker Mayfield missing Odell consistently throughout this season. I recommend everyone to go watch this video, by the way. The 11 minutes is worth it because it is eye-opening how often he has either missed Odell straight up or just missed the windows and has thrown him into coverage. It's been bad. But Odell is on the move. He's being released, and the waiver order has been announced for which teams would be up first. And it starts with the Lions, Dolphins, the next Texans, Jaguars, Jets, Giants, the football team, Eagles, Seahawks, and the Bears. And this is the thing, right? The implications now for any team that picks him up off of waivers, they have to have the cap room for him. Currently, he's owed $8.05 million for the rest of the season. And if he's not claimed off of waivers, then the Browns would have to owe him $6.45 million of that money. So it would almost behoove a team to try and wait for him to clear to then pick him up because it would be a less of a cap hit. But I want to know for you, Deck, I'll start with you. What do you make of the reaction to Odell's pops releasing the video, or what is your reaction to his video? And two, where do you think Odell ends up after all this is said and done?
Yeah, so a lot, and I'm going to make it quick because we are running short on time. Odell's father posted, I mean, it was a clown move to post that. When your son is on this team and that's the environment that he's in, to call out Baker Mayfield in the way he did, out of pocket is the best way to put it for all you Gen Z. I know Greg's on TikTok. Maybe that's a familiar phrase he's heard, but someone just popped up in the background. So I guess, who was it? Can we get confirmation on who it was?
It's KJ.
It was KJ. I was too quick. I wasn't sure, but KJ popped up. He heard the phrase. It was completely out of pocket what he did and what he posted. Was it wrong in terms of the video? The video speaks for itself. Yes. And if I'm Baker Mayfield, by the way, I'm also like a big FU to the whole situation. Like the Browns might be an intriguing pick this weekend just because of that. And they caught the Bengals at the right time, or did they catch them at the wrong time? I'm not giving away my pick. We got Smoke and Mirrors NFL Sunday kickoff coming live on the Sports Hit List at 12 o'clock on Sunday. But as far as, that whole situation, it's good that he's out of Cleveland because there was no way. And listen, it hasn't worked from the beginning all around. It was a complete crap show. Listen, the Giants, good on them for moving him for what they got from him. And now this is the toxicity that they were all talking about, and it looks bad on Odell. Now this is a second team. A long time ago, I did say these guys that are so labeled as toxic and are head cases or cancerous in the media, they often find themselves on second teams, and then they'll later find themselves soon after on third teams. We see this with Antonio Brown. A lot of big receivers are like, even Randy Moss, as great as he was, we saw him bounce around. So this is nothing new. I think a team intriguing for Beckham is really a lot of teams, but to limit it to 5, I think the Raiders make a lot of sense given everything that's happened. I think the Packers make a lot of sense also given everything that's happened. And I think that the Niners, Patriots, and I think Chuck, if he comes on, he might allude to it. The Chargers are a very interesting pick as well. But I think there's a lot of teams out there. So sorry to not, close it in on something, but I don't have much. And to address Manny's comment, this ain't Odell's fault. I think a lot of this is on Mayfield. The scheme is not a very good scheme for receivers, if we're being honest. Odell, obviously, though, similar to Greg, is a common denominator in that he brings all this drama. Greg, that wasn't a shot at you. That was, Carl.
Oh, it definitely was. It was.
It was a shot. It sounded like a shot.
All right, pot shot, fine. Well, they call him the common denominator. It wouldn't.
No. They don't. Carl does.
Okay. All right.
Let's be very clear.
Greg, what are your thoughts on this, though? Give me your take. Do you think the video was inappropriate?
I think it was inappropriate for his father to post, but I mean, at the end of the day, it got the job done. Mm-hmm. So clearly it served some purpose. Yeah. I don't think it should have been released, but if this is what he was looking for indirectly, his father just gave the shove. I don't think that's a good way to do business. But Declan mentioned toxicity, mentioned Randy Moss, Antonio Brown, and that Odell is the common denominator. I'm gonna have to say I disagree with all of that entirely, and here's why. When you think about Antonio Brown and Randy Moss, these are two top-tier talents in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. That essentially
bucked in there as well. Alonzo,
that bucked the system. They don't they're outspoken. He spoke bad about Eli when Eli was literally the corpse of Eli on the field. That was a no-no. Mm-hmm. If you ask me, Cleveland Browns Odell Beckham was very reserved. So to hear that he's the common denominator, I'm not buying it because the man just been shown. They kicked him out of practice 2 days in a row. He didn't do it.
No, they excused him. There's a difference.
They kicked him out. They kicked him out. They said he was coming to practice, and that's another.
It's different than Ben Simmons getting kicked out. I mean, they kicked him out.
No. Why I say kicked out is because they didn't want him there. Mm-hmm. That's why they used excuse. They didn't want him there. Because after the father's video, they felt the way. But the Cleveland Browns have nobody to blame but themselves. They knew this wasn't working at the end of last year. They knew it wasn't working up to the trade deadline. They could have gotten compensation back. But no, they wanted to be petty and hold on to him. And now they get nothing. And they're still on the hook for his salary. So what did I say earlier this season when making picks? Brown's going to Brown. This is one of those situations where they could have had something and they got nothing. So I do think that, and there's another thing that everybody says Odell is toxic. You won't find Odell's teammates coming out and call him toxic that have played with him. They say he loves to win. Go back and listen to interviews. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we're not used to athletes being honest with their assessment and critiques. We're used to them giving a company line. So when they're honest about things, we all get discombobulated. And then you have the woe is me crowd. It's like, how dare you say that? You get paid all these $1 million. Shut up and play the Laura Ingrams of the world. That's what happens. And as far as where he's going to go, I would love for the culture to see him with Pat Mahomes. I think that is the rejuvenation that needs to be seen. It's the second wide receiver that Ty Hill needs to help take the defense, to take the top off of defense. Yep. But I think he's gonna end up somewhere like either Seattle or Las Vegas. if you ask me personally, I think the Raiders need him the most out of any team. I also think it will be a good comeback story. Also, please don't be surprised if the Patriots swoop in.
Honestly, dark horse.
Yeah,
I
could
definitely see that. I could definitely see that. I like him out in KC though. That'd be amazing for the second half of the season for them. To see them improve. I saw in the comments that Chuck was trying to jump on to speak about this misleading video that he's saying. This
video. He said give him 5. I don't know where he is now.
All right, well, you know what? If he comes back in, we can kind of discuss
it. Manny, I'm making a proclamation right now. Okay, the Raiders are 5-2. The Chiefs are what? 4-4?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West, and Manny is going to have a sad Christmas because of it. Because
you want to know why he's going to have an even sadder Christmas?
Why?
Because the Raiders are going to come in third.
Oh, also, no, Manny, you got this wrong. We are not Chiefs fans, okay? We are not Chiefs fans.
No stretch.
But we're football fans, and there's something to be said to watch a talent like Odell paired with a talent like Pat Mahomes. Okay, that is something that we non-Raider fans want to see, and the reason you don't want to see it is because you know it will lead to your Raiders losing. That is why. So I got the Raiders. I'm sorry, I got the Chiefs coming back to win the division because our boy Justin Herbert got to get it together. All right, we got me and Steph got to make a call because clearly something's not right there. There he is.
Yeah, Chucky made it in, so I wanted to just bring him in real quick. What's going on, Chuck? How you doing, bro?
Nothing. What's going on, guys?
Yeah, a lot, man. We're out here talking about everything, and I saw you in the comments. You was talking about the video, the 11-minute video. You said it was misleading. Yeah. Please explain what you mean by that.
Well, as we know in the NFL, especially now, plays get very complicated, and different coaches run different systems.
Yeah,
you can go to any wide receiver and any quarterback combination and find where they miss guys down the field open all the time. It happens all the time. But the thing that's misleading is on those plays, do you exactly know what the type of play was? Do you know if it was supposed to be a pass play? What if it's just a run play and Odell's down the field blocking? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what the exact play was. So, yes, it does look like to the naked eye, if you're not, watching the entire sequence, that it looks like he's open down the field and Baker's not hitting him. Or how do you know if it's not supposed to be a screen underneath? The Browns run a lot of plays, a lot of timing plays underneath, especially with their running backs in Kareem Hunt and everything. They run a lot of that, and that's what Stefanski incorporated last year.
Yeah.
So while Odell could be open down the field, how do you know he's open down the field? Because they didn't just throw the ball underneath to a Jarvis Landry or a Rashard Higgins. That's what they do. They do it all the time, and that's why the Browns find more success when Odell's not on the field, because Baker doesn't look to him, and sometimes he tries to force the ball to him when he shouldn't. Last week, you saw it firsthand. He was throwing the ball to Odell in triple coverage because I guess he felt as though I need to feed my star receiver. Yeah. I need to go out there and give him the ball, or else it's going to look bad on me. And I didn't like Odell's dad saying that Baker's not throwing to him on purpose because he doesn't want Odell to shine also. The guy Baker Mayfield's playing for a contract. So the shittier he plays, I don't know if I'm allowed to say shittier.
Yeah, you can. But hey, boss man does.
He plays he's going to play himself out of a $30 million contract. This was a guy that went first overall. So you would think he would be in line like a Josh Allen and a Lamar Jackson to get the bag after this year. So do you really think he's not throwing to Odell, his best receiver by far, because he doesn't want to shine? Like, the guy's going to lose millions because he's playing so bad. So I think at the end of the day, yes, Baker has his faults. Definitely. We all know it. We could all agree to it.
We don't all know it.
But I don't think Odell is as innocent as people make him out to be. And I do think he's definitely not the same receiver. And I think this is particularly because of the injuries that he suffered, the shoulder, the torn ACL, and everything. The injuries have caused him to lose a step. And you see it every week. He isn't beating corners as he used to when he was with the Giants. And that's a fact. And just because there's an 11-minute video, if you want me to go tomorrow, pick a receiver, I can make an 11-minute video of them opening out and not seeing targets.
Darnell Mooney.
It happens.
So Chuck, I will say this: have you seen the video in its entirety?
Yeah. Yes.
So if you saw the video, you know that for a majority of those plays, they were passing plays. They weren't running plays. He threw the ball to Odell in coverage. Like Odell was open and he missed the window. A lot of those plays were Odell poorly thrown balls. They were poorly thrown balls in there, right, at Odell, where it was out of bounds, or he threw to him when he was in coverage at that point, or he missed him completely. I'm not saying that for some of those videos they weren't running plays, but there's a majority of them that are passing plays. It's Baker breaking out of the pocket. Either they're broken plays or it was designed, and Baker went through his progressions and he missed Odell. Like he threw too late. And I think that is on Baker. That is 100% on Baker. Definitely. And so the video to me isn't necessarily misleading, more so that you get to see more, because you got the camera angle gives you both Baker and Odell on the field and the route that he's running. And I don't think it's a case of Odell not be able to beat receivers, because if you looked at those routes, he beat receivers off the line. If not,
he beat corner.
Corners. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, he beat corners, whether off the line or in this route tree when he as he was going through his route, I should say. So I'm not saying it's not Odell's fault at all, but there is definitely enough blame to be put on Baker for minimizing Odell and not utilizing his talents.
Odell has huge drops, though. That one against the Chargers arguably cost him the game.
Underthrown balls, overthrown balls, there's also drops. I agree with that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely plays where Baker clearly missed them. And like I said, he threw to Odell behind him in triple coverage last week. Like, you can't do that. Nothing's going to work out good when you throw into triple coverage. But like you said, Odell beat guys off the line. Now is the defense playing man? Are they playing cover two? Like, what's the defense?
There was a safety over the top in the few of those shots that I saw, and he was open. Right. If Baker saw him, he would be open for that to make a play, but he threw to him late in a lot of those cases.
Greg, would have hit him in stride.
Yeah,
everything's a lot of timing, especially in today's NFL on screens, right? And so, yes, Baker is out. Don't get me wrong. Baker's completely at fault as well. But I don't think it's just 100% all Baker. I think
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
I think that Odell should get, some negative feedback also. And I think at the end of the day, Baker, Odell's never going to work out in Cleveland. And we knew that since 2 years ago. And they play better when he's not on the field. I just don't think he's a fit for that offense and what Odell can do. And now let's see if we can go elsewhere and be what he was, but I guess we'll see.
Greg, what do you think? We haven't heard from you in a little bit.
So, Chuck, you are probably one of the most measured contributors we have in the realm of the sports hit list. And I'm a little disappointed, Chuck, because I'm not used to you giving a bad take. But coming on here and saying that maybe Odell was blocking, that ain't it. Receivers don't go like this when they block.
I mean,
they look like AJ Green in the end zone when Kyler throws a pick to end the game.
He was talking about like there are routes where the play is over. Odell's running a jog route on occasion, and then he's throwing the hands up. So like you see.
No, that was all for comedic purposes. But what I really wanted to get at was the elephant in the room. And shout out to Ray Jarvis over at the Gray Area. But the real culprit here is Kevin Stefanski, because if you watch those clips closely, there are times where Odell is the third or fourth look. Mm-hmm. So is Stefanski saying that a Rashawn Higgins, Dante Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, are these guys getting more separation, off the line? Because there are times where you'll see him look 2 or 3 times, and before he even looks in Odell's direction, that's a scheme thing. He's not being schemed for, and I think Kevin Stefanski, who said nothing in this, as far as I don't think I've heard anything as far as what's just happened.
Yeah,
I think he has to take some blame in this too, because that Cleveland offense for that running game, that passing attack should be dynamic, and it's not. And this is one of the reasons why I picked the Browns not to make the playoffs. Still gonna stand by that,
as you should.
And I wouldn't go the other way.
Yeah,
because because this team on offense should, for the talent they have, should be better than what they are.
Yeah, but like you said, Stefanski gets blamed too because that's their scheme, and their scheme does not fit Odell. They run a lot of quick stuff.
The least amount of blame goes to Odell. I think we can all agree with that. If there's any blame at Odell's team,
definitely
very few.
And they use a lot of, and that's why they have 3 capable tight ends that could catch, because they use tight ends to block and then they come off the block on the screen. And that's all that they run the quick hitters. And I think that's just Stefanski, trying to play to what Mayfield does, because I think Mayfield's better off, giving you that 5-yard slant and throwing the ball 20 yards downfield where his accuracy isn't the best.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. One thing I will say, when Wet Noodle Arm Eli was throwing him the ball, it was on slants, and he was gaining Declan. Eli's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It is what it is. But towards the end of his career, he could not throw the ball down the field. And that was one of the things that frustrated Odell.
That's what happens when you take the second most hits over the course of freaking 8 years.
Which is fair. But it relegated Odell to a slant receiver, and he still, made guys miss. Baby.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, and I think that I want to see where Odell ends up. I'm hoping it's an offense that is conducive to his skills, because I think he still has enough in the tank to be a stud receiver.
Before you go on, for our dynasty purposes, I would love for him to end up in a Jags uniform. Only reason.
I'm gonna be honest. Listen,
I thought that did cross my mind.
It'll never happen, and everyone who thinks that it should happen is nothing more than a fool. But I'm gonna be that fool and say,
Giants.
Yes.
Come home.
You know why? Come home. Sucks. My team sucks. Can we suck with a
Your GM sucks, so he already has beef with him.
Yeah. Can we? Yeah. Well, he's terrible. Can we be terrible with excitement? Can we be bad but make it look good? I mean,
y'all don't deserve him. Y'all don't deserve him. He don't need to go back there.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say deserve him.
Y'all did him.
We never won with him. I mean, that's besides the point. And his one playoff game.
Y'all don't deserve him. Okay, the way y'all treated him on the way out. Chuck, we're about to move on.
We were right to treat him the way we did on the way out. We got a nice deal.
Stop it.
It
was on him.
Yeah. 2 quick things. I think by Monday, seeing if he gets claimed or not will be very telling.
Yeah.
Very telling. And if he does get claimed, the team that I hope claims him are the Chargers. Because I think that'll take the offense to the next level.
Yeah.
They would be able to compete with, the Chiefs. The Chiefs, well, not so lethal offense, but we never know when they can kick into gear.
One-dimensional offense.
Right. Yeah. The Chargers don't run the ball, so they might as well go out there and have Herbert throw 40, 50 times a game. So I think the Chargers have the cap space to do it.
Yes, they do. So, it's funny. Everybody wants him in the AFC West.
I was gonna say, is that a lock? But at the same time, I'm wondering, it must be a weird time to be a PR person in the Packers front office, and here's why: you got all the smoke with Aaron Rodgers. Does bringing in Odell create more negative smoke, or is it a nice little way to calm the storm?
Nah, definitely calm it, because we see that even without their receivers, they won, but who the hell was he throwing to?
Whoa. Yeah.
That is true.
I agree with that. And one thing I will say, Chuck, before we move on, is that I don't think it's as telling if he doesn't get claimed. It has more to do with cap space than anything, because they wouldn't have to pay as much for Odell. So you might have teams that are being strategic about going after Odell after he clears waivers rather than picking him up on waivers. It's all about the money at the end of the day. But I do want to move on, because I want to talk about this Thursday game. And Chuck, I'm happy you're on right now. Talk about 45-30, which a shellacking, right? But Greg, you spoke about elephants in the room, and there's a huge one in the room when you're talking about the Jets, right? And we should address it. And this is shout out to you, because you mentioned this last night. But how the hell are the Jets' backup quarterbacks looking more like NFL-ready QBs than Zach Wilson, their second overall pick? You had Josh Johnson go out there, a journeyman, went 27 of 41, 317 yards, 3 TDs, 1 pick. From the first drive, he already looked better than Zach Wilson. And you have Mike White, a.k.a. Mike Jones, that's out there, got hurt early, right? And you're thinking, any Jets fan, right, at that point, it's like, that's it. We had one hope with this kid. He looked good last game. There's no way that the third stringer is going to come in and do something. Immediately, he looked good off that first drive. And I got to wonder now, as an organization, head coach, the coaches, the front office, what is going on in the evaluation process that you have two backups that seem very capable, and then you go and get Joe Flacco? You're not seeing these guys practice? You spent a pick to get Joe Flacco when you had two capable backups that you see every day, you've seen in training camp, you saw in every practice. They're going up. I can't understand how we've gotten to this point. Zach Wilson has not looked as good as Mike White or Josh Johnson at this point. And I mean, shout out to Carson Wentz. He's been amazing. He did a great job last night. That offense looked otherworldly. JT is a monster, truly. And
Wentz doing good.
He is. He's doing a lot better than I gave him credit for when we were talking about division winners. But
I picked them in the division because
I am hard pressed to understand how the Jets messed up this big with their quarterback position and just evaluations, because this is just awful. Greg, I'll start with you though. What do you make of this game? I mean, yes, it was a mess. The defense looked awful. They got run all over. But what do you make of this Jets team, this Jets organization?
I mean, the organization's been in shambles for a while, so that's nothing new.
They're new faces though. That's the difference.
Well, what annoys me the most about the Flacco thing is we could have just signed him and we didn't. Yeah. And we let him go to the Eagles, and then we had to trade a pick for him. I don't care what people say. There is still value in the 6th round of NFL. Where did Tom Brady get drafted?
Yeah, 7th rounder. Yeah. Is a Tom Brady out there for somebody?
You know, so there are quarterbacks that get taken in late rounds. Alvin Kamara was a 5th round pick. So there is value in the late round.
Yeah.
You know, Mike White he was undrafted.
I think he went in the 5th.
By the Cowboys,
5th? Yeah.
Oh, see,
but I did think he was undrafted because he has that makeup that would make you think he was undrafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So look at that, Mike White, a 5th rounder. But what was amazing to me is in a half of football, Josh Johnson had 3 TDs. Zach Wilson has 4 TDs in 5 games. You know, it's embarrassing, and it makes you wonder. Obviously, he's a 2nd overall pick, but this goes back to what I was saying, Deck, in the preseason. Just because he was a 2nd overall pick doesn't mean he has to play right away. You know, there's this notion that because he's a high pick, we have to get our money's worth right away. No. Now this is valuable time where he could sit and learn and understand.
He needs to
what the defense gives you. The home run play is always not going to get it done. And
not going to go broke taking a profit. That's literally everything I was told growing up with those underneath routes, is that especially when you're out of the pocket.
And I will forever reiterate this. I better never, ever, ever in life, as Matt LaFleur is the OC, see him on the sidelines ever again.
Yeah.
Mike, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Mike.
Mike.
Mm-hmm. My apologies.
Chuck,
no apologies.
What's your take on this?
Well, I like how Greg brought up the preseason, because if you remember, Wilson didn't even play much in the preseason. I think in the first game he only played like a drive or a series.
Yeah.
So
and he didn't look good.
And that's a dumb thing to do when you have a rookie quarterback, because the preseason means a lot. It's not like third-year guys, fourth-year guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think a factor that not too many people have touched on is their quarterbacks coach died tragically 2 weeks before the season started.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that takes a really big effect on, a rookie quarterback trying to transition from college to the NFL. And they never really replaced them. Mm-hmm. And now at least they have Zach's personal quarterback coach, coming on and going to be on the sidelines. The Flacco thing, I understand from a standpoint as having him there as a mentor on the sideline. I'd rather Flacco, showing everybody the ropes rather than Johnson or Mike White showing Wilson the ropes, because,
they didn't care about that, though. They could have done that earlier. They didn't.
I agree, but that's why they should have resigned him in the beginning.
Right, but apparently Flacco did not want to come back. he wanted to go sign elsewhere.
And
So
then he
they
went
tried
back.
to.
That sucks.
Yeah, they could have got another veteran though. Like my thing was they chose
Right,
not to
no,
get
I
another veteran,
definitely
and it didn't seem about it.
Fitzpatrick would have been the right guy.
Yeah,
I was
I'm just
calling for
thinking,
Alex Smith, and then he retired.
I don't think that they brought Flacco back to be a mentor. They wanted a proven quarterback that can give them a chance once Zach went down. And that's my issue. It wasn't about mentorship. It was about having a capable quarterback because they didn't believe in their two options.
Right.
Yeah,
and
but
I think another good point that Greg hit on was LaFleur being upstairs and Zach Wilson always going for the home run play. Zach Wilson definitely does that without a doubt. And I think he has to take more underneath routes. And the difference now with LaFleur upstairs is they've started to pass more. And for some reason, when Wilson was on the field, they ran heavy, to try to like ease him in, kind of like baby him. Well, take off the training wheels. This is a passing league. And the past 2 weeks, they've passed, they passed 51 times last night, and they only ran the ball like 25 times. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio.
Your young running backs look good too.
Exactly. Use Wilson's arm strength. Get Carter. Carter's a good, pass catching back. Yeah. Get him out of space. Give the ball to Eli Moore. He did it yesterday. He caught a crossing route and he turned into a touchdown. Get these guys the ball in space. There's no reason why you need to run, especially on 1st and 10. Just stop. Go with the pass. And they did it. If you look at the play calling, and somebody broke it down on Twitter in a whole thread, from weeks 1 to 6, they ran a lot more than they did passing. And it goes to show because look how successful they were with the passing. Mm-hmm. So I think LaFleur being upstairs and passing more, that's what they got to do when Wilson comes back, whether it's next week against Buffalo or the week after. Make him pass, especially on 1st and 2nd down, because guys are just going to keep stacking the box if you just keep on with the running plays. Let Wilson throw the ball on quick screens or whatever it is and get his playmakers involved.
Deck, you on the same type of time? You agree?
Yeah, I do agree. But I think my advice for Jet fans is that enjoy the Mike White days as long as they can go, because this could be your franchise guy. As crazy as it sounds, he looked good last night before he went down. Let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, he really did look good. He had the one scary pass on the trick play, but he looked pretty good overall.
Touchdown to Elijah Moore.
Yeah, and it was on that and that wasn't
coverage by Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah. Right, that wasn't the play Chuck was referring to.
No.
A straight fly on that one and got right by him. But I have a bit of a weird announcement, I would say. Not a weird announcement, but a shocking one that you would say. And it pertains to myself and the Jets. I'm returning to Worldwide Sports Radio Network tonight, and tonight only. Not gonna.
When you said that, I was like, huh?
That was my intention. You can catch me at 7:00 on the CJ DeSimone's Weapons Hot, the Jets show. I'm making my worldwide return to talk more Jets. Obviously, you know what to find. So I'll be talking more Jets and my boy CJ.
There's a lot to talk about.
Picked a good time, right? I mean, after the nationally televised game, can we talk about they're on national TV when the whole Mike F. and White situation is going on? What a nice scheduling thing for the NFL to have fall into their lap.
Our defense always shits the bed on national TV.
So does the Giants as a whole usually. I mean, the Jets have the second longest streak of losing national televised games. Want to guess who has the first? Just a shot in the dark. Anywho, that's really all I got to say about the Jets. But, the one thing I will say is that I thought the Jets played decent last night. I thought they showed fight and they showed grit with their second and third team quarterbacks on the field, although Mike White really might as well, in my opinion, is your first teamer right now. I would say, guys, you have no loyalty to Zach Wilson. Keep it that way for the next couple weeks until you make the decision when he comes back.
The Jets offense to me showed the fight. You didn't have it from the defense. They got run all over.
The defense laid down.
I think the biggest difference you see between the Zach Wilson and the two backups is poise in the pocket.
I was just about to say that. Yes.
The minute the pocket collapses, Wilson looks afraid.
That's when he's supposed to be at his best, though. Like when he's scrambling, rolling out, that's supposed to be a strength for him. But I think he's always looking for the big play instead of getting the play that's right in front of him.
Like I said, it's a strength against Blue Mountain State, not against the NFL defense.
It's a Baker Mayfield thing though, and hero ball is a big thing. Like Mayfield did it early on. Sometimes he still does it, and Wilson does it now. You'd expect poise from a guy who had experience in the NFL, not Mike White, who made his first career start after Zach Wilson. You guys hit on the head with the whole Jets.
You know what it is? I think as a scout team QB, Mike White has a lot of years watching, It's like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was on the sidelines for what, 3 years? Now, don't get me. This is not me saying Mike White is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Just talking about the parallel of a quarterback being able to sit on the sidelines, watch, analyze defenses. I'm pretty sure there's not a defensive scheme that Mike White hasn't seen because he's been the scout team QB for so many years.
That speaks to your first point, though, about Zach Wilson needed to have the time to sit and watch, right? Like you're seeing the benefit of that. Both of these guys, you have Josh Johnson, who is a journeyman, and then Mike White, who's had the time to look to be on the scout team, to understand defenses, to understand schemes, and to really be a better QB than what Wilson has been. And I would be happy if when Mike White's healthy and Zach Wilson is healthy, they choose to go with the more experienced, who's the quarterback that's looked much better behind center, rather than keeping Wilson out there to just get thrashed as he has been and just look very poorly. But with that, we're going to wrap up. It's been a long and a fun conversation. Chuck, I want to thank you for coming on last minute to talk football with us. I love having you on for the Jets. We don't have you on for the Yankees at the moment, but I'm looking forward to when that happens again.
It's so bad.
But everyone at home, thank you for tuning in. This is Smoke and Mirrors, presented by the Sports of This on the Worldwide. Almost said worldwide because of you, Deck.
It's on my bad. It's on my bad.
On the sports, this is Smoke and Mirrors, presented by the Sports Hit List. My name is Stephen Polis. We got one.
Don't forget, Smoke and Mirrors will be hosting Sunday show, the Sunday NFL pregame show this Sunday at 12 p.m.
12
Tune in. It's going to be a goodie. Trust me.
Got a full hour.
Yeah. That's
Carl don't know what he did, man.
He has
be asking for us again.
He's got no idea what
we're about to be going 3 days a week, is what you're saying. But yes, tune in on Sunday to check us at 12 p.m. But like I said again, I'm Stephen Polius alongside Declan Krogman, Greg Polius, and our special guest Chuck. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Sunday.